Hello, friends. So, I was talking to a friend the other day about, well, she was actually asking me, she's like, why are you so nervous about this Focused 45? Why are you nervous about going live? And she's like, you go live all the time, you teach all the time in front of a whole bunch of people. Like, what are you so nervous about? And it was a really beautiful question because it gave me a moment to contemplate and articulate maybe where some of this anxiety is coming from. And what came to me is that when I teach, when I share information, wisdom, I'm teaching something, whatever, I I've already been through the shit. And I came out on the other end and I have something to teach. I have the lesson already learned. I'm not in the middle of the yuck. I like to call it the messy middle, right? You're not the caterpillar, you're not the butterfly, you're somewhere in that middle goo phase, the messy middle. And so I don't normally talk about the process as I'm currently in it. It's very much a reflection looking back after I've already been in it and what I learned from it. And so this is a new stage of vulnerability for me. And it is growing me in some new ways. This Focused 45 is really challenging me. And I love a good challenge. What was that TV show? Oh, How I Met Your Mother. That moment where like he was always like, challenge accepted. I identify with that. Someone's like, hey, here's this really hard thing. And I'm like, I'm here for it. Let's fucking go. Because I love learning and growing. I love experiencing new things. And I love challenging and pushing myself to see like, what can I really accomplish? How far can I go? What can I really do? What am I capable of? And when I do that on my own time. And I share things from past or what I'm learning about the current and, what I'm in the challenge, what it's teaching me about things that I have experienced in the past, not necessarily what I'm currently going through. So to vulnerably open up and share this process. And right now, this process feels like a lot of failure. I'm on day 5 and I have only worked on my book today. And let me just show you for a moment what it looks like. There is some of my book, some of it. It's not even all of it. And I was trying to like organize and figure out, what's going where and what's the timeline and what's the energy that I want, the flow that I want. And then I was getting frustrated because that was too many words. And so I started trying to do some post notes. What are these called? Note cards. And then I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing with that either. So I started to write down, my thoughts on how to organize. Like, here's some ideas that I have, but I don't know what I'm doing. And then I just sat because when I was done with that list, I was like, whoa. And I was on a Dharma sprint and I had committed to the 90 minutes and there were still 30 minutes left. And I wanted to be done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And so I picked up my drum and I sat here and I drummed and I cried because I feel so overwhelmed and so afraid because I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to do next. Writing is easy. I love writing and I feel like I'm really good at writing. And I have lived some pretty amazing experiences and stories. Some of the stuff that I have lived, it's like, you can't make this up. Like, this stuff just doesn't happen. But it happens to me. It happens for me. I am a conduit for a whole bunch of really cool stuff and hard stuff and crazy stuff. And I just kind of wanted to disappear today. But I sat and I cried and I drummed and I finished the Dharma sprint. And then I went and picked up my kid and I took a nap. A really beautiful, lovely long nap. And and then I wanted to veg out. So I turned on a show. And currently I'm watching Dickinson on Apple TV. It's a really fun show about Emily Dickinson and her art, her poetry. And I'm getting emotional and I don't know why. I have a lot of excuses. I have a lot of judgments. I have a lot of things that I want to blame and point to. And it's just what is right now. It's sometimes there's a book. It's up there somewhere. The War of Art. The War of Art. And I've read it. I've listened to it on Audible 3 times. It's a really quick listen if you are an Audible fan. And as I'm creating and trying to put my art into the world, I'm like, I need this book because I just need to be able to open it some days to get some inspiration. Because one of the big message I got from that book is that resistance isn't personal. Resistance isn't personal. And when we look at nature, it makes sense. The acorn has to burst out of its shell, this hard shell, its home that it has known after being buried in darkness. It has to burst out of its shell, and then it has to push not only up towards the light, but also down towards nutrients and water. And then it has to, once it comes up and it finds light, now it has to, overcome the resistance of wind and rain and animals and bugs and humans and just nature. But that's how it grows. I remember reading about a study, or an experiment that someone did where they were trying to grow trees in this sphere, seeing if they could control the environment and how the trees would grow in this environment. And the trees would always get to a certain height. I want to say it was about 50 feet. They would get to 50 feet or whatever the height is, and they would always tip over. Every time the trees got to that certain height, they would just tip over. And what they came to was that in this controlled environment, in this sphere, there was no resistance. There was no wind to make it dig in and anchor in and hold on. That it was just easy. And so it was like, oh, there's no resistance. We don't need to, try to grip anything. And it just would fall over. And I know resistance is just a natural part of life. I started this whole awakening journey as a personal trainer, and the concept of lifting a weight heavier than your muscles can handle is how you actually grow the muscles, right? Because lifting more than you can, the resistance to lifting is what ends up tearing the muscle fibers so that they grow back together even stronger than before. So I know resistance is necessary. And I know that there's this, I don't know, I actually struggle with this belief that anything worth achieving is there's a little bit of hard, there's a little bit of struggle. And my daughter just snuck in here like this to me. They're scaring each other. And I don't like that. I don't like that. It has to be hard, or it has to be a struggle. Resistance is futile. Suffering is a choice. Is that a quote by somebody? So just because there's resistance doesn't mean you have to struggle. I mean, I love lifting weights. I love working out. I love challenging my body and pushing myself to the limits in so many areas. And it feels good. And that soreness the next couple of days is like, yeah, I worked so hard that it's hard to go to the bathroom. It's hard to sit down and then stand back up, or go down the stairs. And it just feels good, like that I am working towards something. I'm pushing myself beyond my limits. And in the creative world, and that is elusive. It's invisible, it's intangible until it's done, until the product is birthed and you actually have a physical book in your hand. It doesn't exist for anybody but me. And it's just in my head, it's in my heart, it's around me. I mean, there's some tangible papers here, but the resistance is intangible. It's something I can't see. It's something that I can't put a finger on. It's something that I can't just erase or move or be like, oh, and like lift it and move it and put it down. Like done. It is very much this inner workings that is sitting with yourself in all the raw bits and pieces and parts of you that you haven't met yet. And you're not sure you like, even, or that you really want to meet and get to know better. Emily, the Dickinson movie is, I have a couple of shows that I love to watch that really inspire me to create. Dickinson is one of them because her poetry is just so beautiful. And a woman publishing poetry back at that time was just so wild. And she did so much for women and so many things. I also really like to paint, to watch Painting with John, John Lurie. It's quirky, it's weird, and he doesn't really teach you how to paint. There's not actually a lot of painting in his show. And one of my favorite lines that he says is, he said, I thought I'd be teaching you how to paint, but it turns out I don't know how to do that because it's all intuition. And intuition is individual. You have to find your own way. And he did give some, what I would suggest is, but it just was so fascinating to realize that there's not like a process. There's not a step-by-step guide. And it can be hard to sit in that resistance, sit in that discomfort. I wrote this poem after just like I wanted to just crawl into a hole today. Those days where you just I don't want to do life today. I just want to curl up and not exist. I don't want to have to do the human thing. And I asked a question yesterday on Facebook of what keeps you up at night. And the majority of the answers were anxiety, overthinking. And there were a couple of people that said nothing. And I know I don't know. I guess I don't know. That's one of my chapters in my book is actually all I know is that I don't know. My interpretation of that, based on the people who posted that, is that they're not kept up at night. They don't have anything that keeps them awake at night. And also, there's this concept of nothing that fascinates me. I remember one of my favorite things to say when my ex-husband would be like, "What's wrong?" Nothing. There's a lot in that nothing. There's not nothing in that nothing. There's a lot in there. And in the yoga world or the spiritual world, that the mala beads, traditional mala beads have 108 beads in them. And there's a lot of different meanings behind 108. My personal favorite, the one that I really like to sit with, is that we're all one, we're all nothing, and we're infinite. So we are all one and we are all nothing and we're infinite in that. And there's, of course, the ones and the zeros, the matrix, and infinity in the matrix. And this concept of nothing can be terrifying to sit with. As humans, we feel this puffed up sense of importance, maybe not puffed up, this desire to feel important, to feel like we matter. In a world where we taught that matter is everything, right? Newton's law of physics. And as we're, oh, there's an ant on that. As we're learning that matter is actually an outdated system, that when you actually look at this or the table or the painting or whatever is in front of you, the thing that you're watching this on, it feels solid. It feels like it is matter. But when it's broken down to its smallest bits and pieces, it's space. It's a lot of space. And so when I saw them write nothing on, what keeps you up at night, the first thought was like, oh, they sleep fine. And then also, ooh, that is a deep subject. Nothing. It's a void. It's a black hole, my friends. And as I was watching Dickinson today, this poem started to come to me. And so I wrote it down and I'm going to share it with you. Poetry, I have always loved writing. In 5th grade, I knew I wanted to be an author. These little index cards were positive quotes. Oh, and like, here's one of my old business cards that just popped out when I was the body image builder. I wrote down positive quotes, and I'm sure there's stuff in here from Emily Dickinson and Edgar Allan Poe and just some really beautiful people in here that inspired me. And I wanted to be writers like them. I wanted to inspire other people. And so the idea of nothing can be scary and also so powerful. So here's my poem, sharing poetry live for the first time in a really, really long time. And writing for the first time, really. I that's not true. I write poetry quite a bit, but I don't really share it. So here it is. Nothing. No thing. What am I but a being, full of invisible, yet all-consuming space, empty, void, running an impossible race, traveling at high velocity on a globe full of dirt, spinning, spiraling, filling everything in the vast openness of worth. Gold, silver, bronze, and nickel, valuing life and flaunting it, can feel so unnervingly fickle. I want it all, yet time evades me. How can there be finite, infinite energy? How can I be anything if nothing is everything? I am all that is, isn't, here and now, holding it all in a humbled head bow. So as I sat today in not doing anything and nothing, I just sat here and looked at here's my cute little puppers, Mr. Marty pants. Mr. Marty, hi buddy. I sat here looking at all of this stuff and feeling nothing and everything and being immobilized by it, like literally not knowing what to do next, and still showing up. I'm still here. I'm still showing up, even through the yuck, and holding it all, even though there's nothing to hold. And within this also is everything. I mean, so day 5, I have worked on my book once in 5 days. I have shared twice in 5 days. I have done all the other things. Everything else is checked off. I've done my Dharma sprint. I've done my exercise. I've done my daily pages. I've done my Dharma review. Everything but the thing that I'm working towards. So sharing this process. I don't know what it means yet. I don't know where I'm going. And I hope you enjoy the journey with me, because that's what we're here for. I love you. Have a beautiful day.